Good afternoon. It is always like a homecoming when I come to the dais in one of the cocoon sessions. Have been here for the past many years as well on various topics. Extremely proud to spend a couple of, not couple of hours, maybe 20 minutes is what is given to me, talking about some specific information security related thoughts. I see a lot of information security leaders among the audience, a lot of senior professionals from the CIO community, as well as from various other industry roles. The topic that is given to me, I'll just try to enrich a few thoughts on that from my perspective as well. Is not something which is new to all of us. Like insider threat is something which has been there from time immemorial. So what we will do is, I'll not go deep into the insider threat or what it is or why it is or so, but from the experience I'll try to explain some of the pitfalls that typically I see or my team has seen or we have all seen in our journey so far in the industry. Like I see at least 50% of the audience in front of me, I know you by name and face. And I was fortunate to have got the opportunity to work in multiple organizations, including central government, state government, public sector, corporates, and now we have our own venture in the consultancy space. So during this time, got the opportunity to work with so many people and so many team members. Another thing that I feel extremely proud is at least 10% of the crowd sitting in front of me, I worked with you in various capacities in various organizations and in my previous organizations as my team members or colleagues. I keep all of you so close to my heart. Thank you so much, with which I start. Again, a quick intro about me. I am Gerogie Kurian. Currently, we have our own, 1 year back, some of us have come together to start our own venture in cyber assurance space called c0c0n. Prior to that, I started my career with Keltron. So my professional journey includes Keltron, UST Global, ISRO as a scientist, Investnet, and now in the current organization. Apart from this, I was fortunate to have got the opportunity to work in some of the affiliates or accreditation capacities, including I am recognized as an honorable commander position by Kerala Police Cyberdome. That's a great opportunity given to me. Thank you so much for the Cyberdome community for that. I'm also part of ISACA Trivandrum chapter, currently serving as the vice president. I'm also an accredited trainer for some of the ISACA certifications, including c0c0n, c0c0n, and that's all. And from a certification perspective, I have taken a few credentials, which is needed for the type of space that we are all in. So insider threat, as I said, is not something new, right? Like everybody, like in our professional career, if we have worked in the industry in an information security capacity for at least for 2 or 3 years, I would say at least 60 or 70% of the cybersecurity incidents or breaches that we have experienced or we have got a visibility into must have some element of insider threat in that. And insider threat is not something which is specific to cybersecurity or specific to what we see in the industry now. It has been there from time immemorial. So all these figures says like how it all happened. Just an example, Samson. In the case of Samson, the lady was planted by his enemies to take the secret key of his strength. Likewise, we have the insider threat incidents from various other scripts as well. And it is not something which is too old, like in the industry as well. In the current industry, cyberspace as well, we see a lot of recent incidents. I'm sorry if I know that at least some of these logos resonate with some people sitting here. I didn't do a sanitization there, but basically just to show that, okay, we have so many cases, which if we just search cybersecurity incidents or breaches or industry sabotages, etc., which can be attributed to insider threats. Typically, like for example, Capital One. So what is said is one of the insiders who misused or manipulated with one of the misconfigured firewalls. He used that particular vulnerability to leak out 100 million plus US nationals PII information, which led to one of the largest banking frauds in the recent times. Similarly, Edward Snowden or like Tesla, it is said that an employee who was denied a promotion at one particular point in time used his credentials and his access rights to do some sabotage activities. Equifax, another example. Robinhood, another example, where one of the insiders did, who had visibility to some of the weaknesses of his own organization, misused it. So in our capacities, we must have come across several situations in which our own employees or our own people or our own contractors or our own ex-employees whom we trust, or we must have attributed a lot of access rights to them during their tenure with the organization, have misused that, which led to some of these serious breaches to our organizations. I am sure everybody must have got at least one or two incidents which can be cited from their personal or professional examples. Then what is an insider? Who is an insider? So when we say insider, typically we say, okay, insider is an employee. It is not only an employee, and among the employee itself, there are some category of employee who are like considered as more sensitive from an insider threat perspective. Typically like an employee who is about to resign or is in the notice period. Like people who are in the network administration or internet bandwidth monitoring related capacities must have observed a spike in their browsing patterns or the type of emails which are going out or the type of data which is going out, especially for people who are leaving the organization in the next 30 days or the next 60 days. So now many organizations have started putting some additional monitoring controls on specific roles or based on the employment tenure. Then we have the ex-employees, and like most organizations nowadays, when we meet many organizations outside India as well, for their information security related consulting aspects, one typical aspect that we touch upon is the access management. And most organizations are so confident about their access management, and they never imagine that their access right, their active directories have people who have left the organization. They all say that, okay, we have very good access management practices, termination processes, etc. And we ensure that no employee who left the organization is there in the active directory or have access to any of our enterprise systems. Practically, I have not seen any organization where at least 20% of those people who have access to various information systems who are not, like, at least 20% of cases, I would say, like, say 10 to 20% of accounts belong to people who are not supposed to be there, who either are terminated employees or terminated contractors, etc. So this is something which is extremely prevalent. Contractors, consultants. Nowadays, okay, a lot of information security consultants are there who knows the various weaknesses in your organization. So those consultants are also extremely vulnerable. So that is the reason why security consultants need to be, the tag of trust is extremely important when it comes to consultants or any type of a third party who is supporting you from outside. Terminated contractors, your service providers, etc. So these are different types of insiders that we need to consider when we think about insider threat and many more. I'm not touching upon the type of insiders which are considered as automated or bots or applications. We are purely talking about the human element. When we say contractors or vendors or even employees, there are so many type of contractors or vendors who are more vulnerable than others when it comes to potential of being an insider threat if they have a malicious intent. Typically like contractors who are in the infrastructure development or maintenance capacity, data migration, etc. So an organization having a good visibility into the type of contractors or contracting firms that they have and classifying them according to the level of damage that they can pose at some point if there is a data security or malicious intent with them, that need to be considered as part of your third-party risk management program. So third-party risk management program, there are so many frameworks, there are so many patterns, there are so many processes are there. But something which most of the organizations miss is putting an element of, okay, asking the question, okay, what is the maximum threat which can be posed by this entity or this consultant if this person goes with a malicious intent. So likewise, there are so many patterns out there which need to be considered. And from a behavioral perspective, insiders of different behavioral patterns. It can be an innocent but negligent person, somebody who does not care much about information security or looks down at the information security policies of the organization. Okay, those are simple policies. These information security people just send emails, but they don't care much about it. Those are negligent people who pose the maximum amount of threat to the organization. Then we have confused lot who do not have much clue on what exactly is happening. Okay, they may not have the capacity. So I did not put the term stupid or a fool there, but typically a person who is unable to grasp the potential of various policies or policy violations can bring to the organization. Then we have underminers, who are typically people who skip or circumvent security policies of an organization to make things faster or do it more efficiently. So we definitely, I'm sure people sitting here might be able to relate many phases to these type of behavioral patterns from your organizations as well. Underminers typically, they bypass things so that, they can do things with a better efficiency. Then we have proprietors. That is something that is very often seen. But typically the people who have so much, they keep their work and patterns and everything so close to their heart. They have that much amount of ownership, but problem is they keep it so close to their heart that they cannot digest the fact that tomorrow another person might be sitting in my position. So they want to guard their boundaries so much. So they go to the extent that they either delete or destroy the systems to prevent somebody else having control. So those are proprietors, and I'm sure that is also another pattern that many of us might be able to relate from our experiences. Automated, compromised, etc. So many examples are there. So these are typical behavioral patterns. It does not cover all patterns, but I have just taken a few which we see on a day-to-day basis. So insiders. Insiders basically they have authorized access, legitimate access, and also they have knowledge about the insider, the organization's vulnerabilities, and they can do things which make detecting challenging and difficult. So typically statistics say 30% of security breaches are attributed to insider threats. I have not seen anything lesser than 70% in my personal experience. A structural taxonomy of insider threat. Insider threat is something which is extremely common. We all have seen so many insider threat events, and we know what it is, but a structural anatomy of what it is. We'll have these infographics posted in our LinkedIn handle so that you can download those directly from there with a better clarity if you want to save some time. So basically insider threats can be of two categories. Broadly classifying as malicious as well as unintentional. Malicious we all know, with some malicious intent, and the unintentional. If we go deeper, malicious, we'll take the 5W1H pattern just to see what those mean. So malicious insider threats which are triggered by a malicious intent, typically the outcome is either theft of IP or sabotage of the IT systems, or unauthorized disclosure, which can be due to either financial, political, or personal reasons. And these are done by either planted, individuals who are either planted within the organization, recruited, or self-motivated. In most of our organizations, what we see is this is self-motivated people, may not be supported by a huge army behind them or huge system behind them, but at the same time, self-motivated. But they have huge potential of damage which can be done. And how is it usually done? It can be either using the legitimate access right that they have, or by obtaining unauthorized access. So from a Y part, it can be either with the legitimate access that they have, or by using unauthorized, obtaining unauthorized access. From a when perspective, typically malicious insider threats can be either a long-term, short-term, or a one-time type of incidents. And the tenor, we can always attribute that to that person's, either a contractor or a supplier or an employee, either before, during, or after. During the employment itself, immediately before a person leaves the organization, etc. Those are typical patterns. From a where perspective, insider threats, the manifestation can be either in the physical operating system, network, application, data, etc. So we should be able to relate to that. And who typically does that? From a system role perspective, it can be a simple application user, somebody like a fiduciary operator in a fintech organization, or or even an advanced user who knows more about the system and the related implications, or even a system master who may not have the privileges but knows in and out about the system. Somebody who has been with the organization for a long time, who knows everything about the system architecture, the weaknesses from a people perspective, policy perspective, detection perspective, etc. And these are people who can typically pose damages. And from a perpetrator perspective, this can be a hacker, a proprietor, what we discussed in the previous slide, a career thief, a mole, or an avenger who typically houses a lot of grudge to the organization or to individual and want to do some harm to the organization. Topology, from a topology perspective, it can be an employee, it can be an insider associate, somebody like an intern who is planted, or a contractor or a consultant who is planted from an audit firm, etc. It can be a vendor, partner, or even it can be an automated, it can be a bot who does that. So from a malicious intent perspective, this is the exploded view of what, why, how, when, where, and who for a typical insider threat. From a a disclaimer in the next six slides. Please read the blue, what is written in the blue rectangle as unintentional. Okay, that was a typo from my side. So from an unintentional type of insider threat perspective, the outcomes can be typically data loss, accidental damage, non-compliance, or reputational damage. So they may not have, they do not have a malicious intent, but their actions typically result in these type of incidents. And why does that happen? Typically because of insufficient policies, trainings, or technical controls. We cannot expect all our employees to be diligent when it comes to their actions and inactions. So definitely the technical controls has to be put as a safety net. So organizations typically fail in that, which result in the insider threat activities. And typically how does that happen? The manner in which that is happening is typically, the common examples are information disclosure. Typically like something which is posted or sent to an unauthorized entity or so, or given to, or from a malicious intent perspective, it all starts with phishing or malware, etc. Records are lost and all. And from a violation perspective, it happens again with the same privilege or unauthorized access which is obtained by a third party who is using the unintended insider. When it typically does not happen on a long-term perspective, it is either one time or recurrent. Tenor again, before, during, and after. There is no a pattern of more security incidents due to an insider threat just before the incident. So it's typically spread throughout. From a manifestation perspective, it is again the same. Who perspective, it is the same, but from the perpetrator type, it is typically the underminers. Typically people who want to skip the information security policies or controls to make their work more efficient. So those are people who typically fall. And also over-ambitious people, people who want to overtake everybody else and get things done at a much faster pace so that their career ladder can be much more easier. But they do things bypassing most of the controls. So typically like a firewall administrator who wants to get things done in a very fast manner so that he gets very good accolades from the business, but at the same time he bypasses the change management related tickets also. Typically these are examples. Structural taxonomy of insider threat of unintentional. Okay. So this is the complicated diagram of what we discussed in the past 12 slides. Common signs and indicators, which can be either technology related or human related, something that we all know, but again I've just put it all together in a slide. Typical indicators from a technology perspective are like sudden spikes or changes in the patterns in terms of data movements, uploads happening, data movements happening to a new destination, changes in pattern with respect to the time, the area from which the connectivity is made, the geography, etc. And patterns like clearing the logs or specific incidents, repeated violation with respect to security policies, etc. Disabling of security policies. These are some control that we might be able to see, but like almost all security incidents, some of these indicators might be there, but organizations typically overlook them because like due to various reasons. Human behavior perspective, typically like there are behaviors like one example is in a manufacturing organization. One security incident happened and one of the insiders was behind that. The typical pattern which when we discussed further was that this person was denying promotion to a different role or a transfer to a different department just because he wanted to be in that particular position for a longer time. So organization did not think that it is the indication of something which is happening in the background. People thought this is because he is so attached to the work and all, but what happened is he was doing something. So typically these are different types of patterns which indicate a potential security insider threat related event. So the best practices. So from a best practices perspective, it can be either administrative, cultural or technical, which can be taken by the organization. So typically, administrative controls includes organization's policies, training and awareness, employee monitoring, termination procedures, etc. Something that I like most among these, definitely all of these are so valid, but at the same time, something that I have seen most organizations failing is organizations not thinking about an proper insider threat management program. So organizations have security policies, controls, etc. But the insider threat perspective is never considered because organizations trust people. Organizations make philosophical statements that we trust people, people are our strength, so we have grown till now because of so and so reason, etc. But at the same time, having an insider threat program is something which benefits a lot for the organization. Another thing is definitely an element of employee monitoring without violating employee privacy rights is something which need to be done by the organization, which can be done with a lot of technological controls which are available now. And as I said, most organizations, almost all organizations, there will be individuals having access, unauthorized access, even after their termination or change of roles. So if any organizations can claims that such a process is, their process is extremely foolproof in their organization, very good, but it is very, very unlikely in most organizations. So having a standard practice for revoking access for terminated employees. So when I say terminated employees, revoking access from all different systems. Even though in most of the organization, the authentication and authorization and user identification happens from different databases or different systems. And so when it comes to their AWS or GCP or their ERP or specific cloud security tools or their Active Directory logging into their systems, whatever. So all of them, there will be multiple sources from which authentication happens, and the process of triggering an employee's termination, not only an employee, even a contractor or a consultant having access to some of these systems. So one typical problem that I see in most organizations is employees are managed by human resource department. When it comes to contractors or consultants, the corresponding business departments have more control with respect to their onboarding and offboarding access. So what typically happens is employee onboarding and offboarding, there might be a good system, but when it comes to contractors and consultants, there might be a lot of gaps and vice versa. So these are typical patterns that are seen in most organizations. I am sure at least some of you might be able to relate it to some patterns that you see in your organizations. Next is cultural. Yeah, definitely. We all say that employees are our assets. Trust, we have built based on trust, etc. But I don't think organizations can expect the level of trust and loyalty they used to get from 1970 to say 2015 or so. Now, the tenure of an employee in an organization is much smaller, and you cannot expect the same level of loyalty, commitment, long-term commitment, etc. So definitely, not that people have not gone bad, people have gone bad, but at the same time, the chances of somebody misusing, knowingly or unknowingly, is something which is grown much more higher. So that is the reason why we need to have better practices from a cultural perspective. Security policies or insider threat related policies. Most organizations have their information security departments or human resource departments sitting there and defining the policies. But having that as a collaborative or a consulting manner with the employees or with the key stakeholders from various departments is something which adds a lot of value there. Whistleblower perspective, like many organizations, people are afraid to share something that they have seen. So having that transparency built, it's something which is very important. From a technology perspective, not something which is new here. Like I'm sure like everybody sitting here might have implemented a lot of these controls, including, again, we have controls, but at the same time, in most of the cases, we fail limiting the access privileges based on roles. We might have RBAC or least privilege implemented in some segment, but when it comes to from a holistic perspective, there are gaps which I see in most organizations. So that is another thing. And a monitoring and analytics perspective, now we have a lot of systems and controls in place, which can be leveraged to typically understand a user's usage patterns and take actions based on whatever unusual patterns which are seen there. We can use the AML technology, etc. And even though we say trust and all, like let's have a zero trust model. Assume no trust by default, even for insiders. So these are different best practices which are there. At the same time, again, an exploratory view of what we discussed till now. There are many pitfalls that we see when we see multiple organizations. Basically, it is underestimation. Underestimation is when there is an IT budget or security budget and we have the capability to go and buy and deploy a cybersecurity tool, which typically claims to address insider threat related scenarios. Organization underestimate the capacity or importance of the human element. Underestimating the role of education and awareness and overlooking the typical signs. These are things that typically organizations fail to note, because basically, okay, if they think that, okay, I have put the best in class cybersecurity tools which claims to address cybersecurity related or insider threat related aspects, we give that job to SOC or to security incident management team. And organization typically put full reliance on those segments instead of taking into consideration the human element on that. That's underestimated. Second is the training lapses. There is a lot of unintentional related use cases that we spoke, where the training related aspects is typically underestimated and the lapses plot with them. Response delays. Yeah, we have best in class security incident management tools, and we have put some element of SOAR there, so we expect some orchestration happening there with respect to incident response. But at the same time, there is definitely an insider security incident management process which needs a human element. So there, training and tuning your, I have 5 more minutes. Training and tuning your security incident management program to address insider threat specific scenarios is something which is very important, because you cannot address as an insider threat in which one of your key employees are involved in the same way you manage as normal security incident. So typically response delays happening there. Organization culture, definitely bringing in that security culture into the organization, and the element of accountability. Policy failures. Problem is, okay, somebody sit somewhere remotely, define the policies, talk with the senior management, get it approved and floated, but the organization, the individuals are not involved in the policy making or the communication. So that is what typically contributes to the policy failures which attribute to the security or the insider threat related aspects. Last is over-reliance. Again, over-reliance on technology solutions, as we mentioned. And neglecting the human-centered countermeasures. Tools and technologies, my last slide. Tools and technologies, typically, like we have a lot of tools. At the same time, when it comes to the integration, most organizations fail with respect to ensuring that the integration is done with all sensitive segments within the organization. So, like namesake, okay, there will be tools and integration will be done with certain specific information systems, but there might be a lot of typically what we see is there are a lot of systems which are left untouched. Over reliance on tools, insufficient customization. So definitely tools are there, but at the same time we have to tune it according to organization practices, organization requirements and use cases. limited collaboration. As I said, okay, human element is huge there. So the collaboration between the business departments, human resources, information security, executive management, any other third party, all those are very important. So as a risk assessment professional, this is a question which I have felt that, okay, something which gives lot of return of investment when I do a risk assessment for an organization. So typically when we do risk assessments, we talk about different information assets, the type of controls put there, and the confidence of the cybersecurity team in managing those tools, the information security budget, the executive management's leadership, etc., management's commitments with respect to security, etc. So like at some point we feel that the organization has got best-in-class cybersecurity framework and there is no possibility of a threat there. But the next question which I usually ask is, okay, we take a couple of sample individuals and at some point if we are able to ask them, okay, what are the ways in which you think sensitive data of organization can be taken out? Typically like an IT director, or typically like a cybersecurity person, or typically like a developer, or somebody who is in another role. Like they know that all these controls are, but if you ask them who has been with the organization, what are the ways in which you think you can take some data out of the organization, it opens up lot of visibility into the real problems that organizations have. So this is something which I feel, okay, we have got a maximum return of investment when it comes to spending time on asking questions during a risk assessment. Second is from an availability or integrity perspective, if we can ask the question, taking specific examples, asking them, okay, what is the maximum damage that this person in this particular role can make to the platform or to the data? Somebody who is an ERP administrator, or somebody who is a developer, somebody who is a database administrator. Even though we say, okay, we have all these controls, ask this question, okay, what is the maximum damage that this person can do or a contractor can do? These two questions, I assure you that, okay, gives maximum return of investment. If you spend like 1 month doing IT risk assessments, spending 10 minutes asking these two questions will give much more insights, which are valuable and practical, is what we feel from a practical perspective. Again, with this, I've used some references here. With this, basically, I have come to the end of my presentation. But usually, these type of presentations is more like a learning experience for me, along with the audiences, because okay, I learn a lot. Okay, some of my observations here, and typically the $1 million question that I mentioned, the pitfalls, etc. I believe, like some of you might have better explanations which can be given, or counter arguments which definitely enrich others. So if somebody would like to share some thoughts here, or ask questions, or give some corrections to what I said, I'll be very grateful. Even during the session, immediately after this, or even during our networking sessions, if there are discussions around this, if somebody can share some thoughts here, I'll be extremely grateful. Thank you so much.